I'm back with Danielle D'Souza Gill. By the way, I should mention not only that Danielle has written a book about abortion, it's called The Choice, The Abortion Divide in America, but you are also about to embark on a television show. So say a little bit about that.
Yes, the paper, Epoch Times, if you haven't heard of it, they do a lot of investigative reporting. They do a lot of work, especially against the anti-communist, their anti-communist China. And so they have a platform called Epoch TV. And it's a streaming platform, so you can see a lot of different shows. But my show on there will be every week, and it'll be called Counterculture with Danielle D'Souza Gill, where we really go through a lot of the cultural issues going on today and how we can fight back against the left. And it starts July 4th, so
awesome.
Stay tuned for that.
Look for that. I want to talk to you about this big fight in the Southern Baptist Convention, one of the leading denominations and a conservative denomination. And apparently there have been a couple of prominent leaders in this at the Southern Baptist Convention that have been moving the organization away from conservative politics. Now, one of them, the SBC president, J.D. Greer, is apparently on his way out. And so is another guy named Russell Moore, another guy. He was the Southern Baptist Convention's top lobbyist in Washington. By the way, a guy who was frequently very critical of Donald Trump. Now, I want to focus on something that J.D. Greer recently said in a speech to the executive committee of the Southern Baptist Convention. He goes, quote, "God did not call Southern Baptists to save America." What do you make of this statement?
It seems like it's kind of his excuse for saying that Southern Baptists don't really need to be involved in politics. They don't really need to be Republican, because that seems kind of like a conservative goal, which is to save America, to keep it from going down the drain, that sort of thing. So it seems like that's what he's responding to. And I think it's really troubling because a lot of those people really do care about America, not just because they're political, but because they want to do God's will in the country.
They want to work at home where they are. Presumably, this advice would apply to people anywhere in the world, right? I mean, if you're an Indian Christian, you would want to do your work in India. Where else would you do it, right? Or if you're an Australian Christian, you would want to do your work to be salt and light in Australia. So it seems to me really odd. I think what he's trying to say, and maybe I'll play devil's advocate here, he might say, well, listen, there's been too much of a reduction of Christianity to politics. We should be in the business of saving souls and not in the business of supporting this party or this candidate. How would you answer that?
I would say that, of course, the goal is evangelism and to save souls, but America is such a big influence on the entire world. And so if we can make America a better country, that will help everyone in America, but also people around the world, because we have so much influence over the entire world.
I'm thinking here, for example, of the way in which when Dante wrote, he thought of Rome as being not just Rome. He thought of Rome as the capital of the world. Why? Because the influence of Rome was transmitted widely through Asia, through North Africa, all the way up to Northern Europe. And so I think Dante understood in a way that in the end, even Christianity would be carried on the back of the Roman legion. So what you're saying, I think, is something similar, which is that, hey, here's America, but it's not just America. We're living at a time where even if Americans don't want to, their culture, their values, their movies, their jokes are promulgated throughout the world. So if you're not salt and light here, thinking, oh, I'll be salt and light someplace else, this is the way to influence the world, right?
Right, and of course someone could be a missionary in another country, but the goal is for the people who aren't doing that, we need to make here better, because we are living here, and if we don't act as the ones who are influencing America, who are changing the country, then the other side is going to. So worldviews that are opposing the Christianity will take over. So there isn't going to be a vacuum of no leadership or no worldview that's pushing America in a certain direction. There's always going to be that. So if it's a Christian worldview and a Christian culture, then that will be better for the country as opposed to some other type of force taking over.
It seems part of this was that, some of the anxiety of the Southern Baptists seems to have been focused on Trump himself. But I think more broadly, they're raising the question of, can you support a flawed man who is nevertheless doing things that are supportive of your positions? So their argument is, look at Trump, here's a guy, look at the situation, look at his marriage, and look at Trump as a flawed man. Therefore, we can't support that guy. But it seems to me, so then what? You're waiting for a perfect man to be the embodiment of your principles? You might have someone who actually is more with you on some of those issues, and yet they're pursuing policies antithetical to what you believe. So how does the Christian think through this business about the fact that there are flawed people, but nevertheless they might stand for the right principles, even if they fall short of them?
Right. I mean, no matter what, everyone is flawed. Everyone is a person who is fallen. And so that's going to be the case with either side's candidate. But the point is, one side wants to further principles that are antithetical to the Bible and antithetical to God. They want to make abortion just rapid on demand at 9 months, things like that. And the other side is trying to stop that. So we have to focus on how does our country really influence what's happening in many lives in America, and then also influencing the culture around the world.
Talk about the influence of the left and the fact that we're not dealing now with the left. We're dealing now with a left that is really promoting things through education and through culture that just seem downright evil. It's not just a matter of choice. It's the actual choices that they make that they choose to promulgate. You showed me just yesterday, I think, an article from BuzzFeed where they talked about wholesome things that leftists find toxic. Say a word about the sheer depravity that we're seeing in America today that is done, you may say, actively working against the influence of Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many examples. I think it starts with young kids. If a young kid says, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes or no, sir, obviously the left is against that because they're against gender. They don't want anyone to use a pronoun of that kind. They're against, making your kids do something they don't want to do. They say, well, what if the kid doesn't want to talk to this person or that person?
Well, the example you gave me was they said something like, you cannot ask your child to hug one of their older aunts. Because if they hug a relative, the left thinks that that's sort of violating their freedom of conscience as a kid.
Right. The left writes about the child like it's their body or something like that. And so they're completely taking this stuff so far. And other examples just had to do with really things that are normal. I think they use the example of like a protective dad not liking a girl's boyfriend or something. They're against all of that. They just want it to be so that everything that is basically a conservative or a Christian culture is overturned.
So if the Christians allow this to happen and don't resist and sort of act like this is not, like Pilate, they wash their hands off it, isn't it the case that we just get the complete triumph of depravity? And not only are we not resistors of it, we become enablers of it.
Right, and I think sometimes our side doesn't wake up until it's gotten so bad and it's gotten to the point where it's almost too late, and then we try to kind of jump in at the last minute to turn these things around. But I think just knowing that this is the left's goal, this is what they want. They want to normalize their culture, their secular culture, and make it so that a Christian culture is weird and crazy and even evil, they would say. It's bigoted and all those things. Even making things that are right wrong, making something respectful into an insult.
The Southern Baptist Convention has been a powerful force for decency and morality in the country and in the world, and I hope that they are able to push back against this leftist trend and keep doing the good work that they have long done in the past. We'll be right back.